Imagine a battlefield where the fiercest opponent isn't a rival, but your own child. A war waged not with weapons, but with perfectly timed interruptions. This isn't just a story. It's a raw, hilarious, and utterly relatable confession from the trenches of parenthood, where intimacy goes to die 1,000 tiny deaths. If you've ever felt like your kids have a sixth sense for adult time, then buckle up. Your sanity, and perhaps your libido, depends on watching this. Right at that moment when I thought I understood the basic rules of parenting and privacy, my middle school daughter rewrote the entire playbook and turned what should have been normal family life into a strategic warfare zone where intimacy goes to die. Let me paint you a picture of my household so you can fully appreciate the psychological torture I've been enduring for years. We have multiple kids, and I want to be absolutely clear about something from the start. I'm not putting any of this on my youngest child. They're small, they're genuinely helpless, and when they interrupt us, it's because they actually need something important. They can't reach the juice box, they're scared of a nightmare, or they've had a legitimate bathroom emergency. These are reasonable, understandable interruptions that come with the territory of raising tiny humans. But my oldest daughter? She's a completely different species of creature altogether. This girl is middle school aged, perfectly capable of handling anything she needs around the house, and possesses the kind of independence that would make a Navy SEAL proud. She can make herself food, she can solve her own problems, she can entertain herself for hours, and she demonstrates remarkable competence in every area of her life except for one very specific situation. The moment, and I mean the exact moment, my wife and I disappear together for more than 5 minutes. She transforms into the most helpless, needy, emergency-prone child you've ever witnessed. It's like she has some kind of internal radar system that detects when parents are trying to have adult time, and suddenly she becomes incapable of basic human functions. If we lock our bedroom door, she's testing the handle like she's conducting a security inspection. If we try to sneak away to another part of the house, she materializes out of thin air with the most ridiculous emergencies you can possibly imagine. And here's the thing that makes me question reality itself. Her timing is absolutely perfect. Not almost perfect, not pretty good timing, but surgically precise interruptions that would make a Swiss watch jealous. Let me give you a prime example of what I'm dealing with here. Picture this. My wife and I finally get a rare moment alone. We've made it exactly 4 minutes and 30 seconds into what we hoped would be some quality adult time, when suddenly there's urgent knocking on our door. Dad, Mom, I think I hear a bug in my room. Notice the specific wording here. Not, I see a bug. Not, there's definitely a bug. But, I think I hear a bug. She's not even claiming to have visual confirmation of this alleged insect. She's reporting possible audio evidence of a potential bug that may or may not exist in her room. This isn't a one-time occurrence or even an occasional annoyance. This has been my reality for years now, and the pattern is so consistent that I've started to wonder if she's installed some kind of surveillance equipment in our house. The questions she asks during these interruptions are so mundane, so completely non-urgent, that I'm convinced she's doing it on purpose. But here's what she doesn't realize. Every perfectly timed interruption, every ridiculous emergency, every moment of stolen privacy has been carefully cataloged in my memory, and Payback is going to be absolutely legendary. No one expected that documenting my daughter's cockblocking incidents would reveal a pattern so sophisticated and precisely timed that it could only be explained by either supernatural powers or the most elaborate psychological warfare campaign ever conducted by a middle schooler. Let me walk you through the greatest hits of her interruption portfolio, because you need to understand the sheer artistry of what I'm dealing with here. These aren't random childhood moments. These are masterfully orchestrated attacks on parental intimacy that would impress military strategists. The door handle testing is her signature move, and she's perfected it to an almost scientific level. My wife and I will quietly slip into our bedroom, carefully lock the door without making a sound, and within 60 seconds we hear the gentle but unmistakable sound of someone slowly turning the handle. Not rattling it aggressively like a typical kid would do, but methodically testing it as if she's conducting a security assessment. When it doesn't open, she doesn't give up and walk away like a normal person would. Instead, she escalates to phase 2 of her operation. The knocking begins softly at first, almost polite, like she's genuinely concerned about disturbing us. But here's where her genius really shows. She never asks about anything that could be considered a real emergency. Mom? Dad? I think there might be something wrong with the weather outside. The weather. Not a tornado warning, not a power outage, but a vague concern about meteorological conditions that require immediate parental consultation. Then there's the bug situation that has become legendary in our household. This girl has developed an entire classification system for insect-related emergencies that would make an entomologist weep. I think I hear a bug in my room. It's just the beginning. She's also reported suspicious buzzing sounds that might indicate flying insects, mysterious scratching noises that could suggest crawling creatures. And my personal favorite, I think there's a bug somewhere in the house, but I'm not sure where, and it's making me worried about sleeping tonight. The timing of these incidents is what really makes me question the laws of physics. We're talking about a child who can disappear into her room for 6 hours straight, completely self-sufficient, solving her own problems and entertaining herself without needing any adult intervention whatsoever. But the millisecond my wife and I achieve privacy, she transforms into the most dependent, helpless creature on Earth. My wife has started keeping track too, and we've identified what we now call the 5-minute rule. If we can make it past 5 minutes without interruption, we're usually safe. But those first 5 minutes? It's like she's got motion sensors, thermal imaging, and possibly psychic abilities all working together to detect when parents are attempting adult activities. The questions she asks during these interruptions reveal the depth of her strategic thinking. Dad, do you know why the refrigerator makes that humming sound? This is asked at 10:30 p.m. on a Tuesday when she's been living with the same refrigerator for her entire life. Or my personal favorite, Mom, I forgot. What day is it tomorrow? Asked during a moment when literally every clock, phone, and device in our house displays the current date. What makes this psychological torture even more maddening is that I know she's completely capable of independence, which means every single interruption is either the result of supernatural timing or the most dedicated commitment to cock-blocking in the history of parent-child relationships. But the tragedy had not stopped yet. In fact, years of perfectly timed interruptions had been building toward this moment of revelation. If my daughter wanted to play strategic warfare games, then she was about to discover that her old man had been studying the art of revenge for decades, and Payback was going to be absolutely ruthless. Here's the thing about revenge. It's not about anger, it's about justice. And after years of cataloging every single cock-blocking incident, every perfectly timed interruption, every moment of stolen intimacy, I've developed what I can only describe as the most comprehensive payback strategy in parenting history. She thinks she's clever with her supernatural timing? Just wait until she experiences the other side of this psychological warfare. The moment she brings home her first serious boyfriend is going to be my Super Bowl, my World Series, my Olympic Games of perfectly timed interruptions. I've been taking notes, people, and I'm ready to deploy every single tactic she's used against me, amplified to maximum awkwardness. Picture this scenario. She's finally got her first real boyfriend over. They're hanging out in the living room trying to have their own moment of teenage privacy, when suddenly I appear like a ghost with urgent questions about home maintenance. Hey, sweetie, I know you're busy, but I really need to ask your boyfriend about his opinion on plumbing fixtures. Do you think copper pipes are better than PVC? This is really important and can't wait. But that's just the warm-up act. When she gets older and brings someone home for dinner, I'm prepared to unleash the full arsenal of ridiculous timing. Right when they're having their first serious conversation about their relationship, I'll burst through the door with a container of cookies. Not offering them cookies, mind you, but asking detailed questions about cookie storage techniques and whether they think the humidity in our house affects the crispiness factor. The medical emergency strategy is where I really plan to shine. She's going to be in her 20s, maybe even married, thinking she's finally escaped the cock-blocking phenomena of her childhood, when her phone rings at 11 o'clock on a Friday night. Honey, I'm so sorry to bother you, but I've developed this concerning boil on my backside that might need to be lanced. And I really need to describe it in excruciating detail right now because I'm worried it might be serious. I'm going to go into elaborate descriptions of every gross medical condition I can imagine. Fictional rashes that require immediate discussion, mysterious digestive issues that need to be analyzed, and detailed reports about various bodily functions that absolutely cannot wait until morning. She'll be trying to have romantic dinners with her significant other while I'm calling to discuss the color and consistency of dog vomit that may have seeped into our carpet. The beauty of this revenge plan is that I'm simply going to use her exact tactics against her. Every emergency will be just important enough to sound legitimate but ridiculous enough to be obviously annoying. Every phone call will come at the most inconvenient possible moment. Every interruption will be delivered with the same innocent tone she's perfected over the years. I'm going to become the master of fictional emergencies that require immediate consultation. Imaginary household disasters that need her input, non-existent neighborhood drama that requires her immediate attention, and elaborate stories about minor inconveniences that absolutely cannot wait for a more convenient time. The sweetest part of this revenge fantasy is knowing that she'll finally understand what years of perfectly timed cockblocking feel like from the other side. And maybe, just maybe, she'll develop some appreciation for the psychological torture she's put her parents through. Right at that moment when I thought my elaborate revenge fantasies would remain a private source of satisfaction, I decided to share my cockblocking saga with the internet, and what happened next revealed just how divided the world is between parents who understand this struggle and people who clearly have no idea what they're talking about. The response to my Reddit post was like watching two completely different species of humans discover each other's existence. On one side, I had what I lovingly call my cock-blocked brothers and clam-jammed sisters in arms, fellow parents who immediately understood the psychological warfare I'd been describing. These beautiful souls flooded the comments with their own horror stories, sharing tales of perfectly timed interruptions that would make a Navy SEAL weep with recognition. The solidarity was incredible. Parents from around the world united in their shared experience of trying to maintain adult relationships while raising tiny dictators who seemed to have supernatural powers of intimacy detection. One parent shared a story about their kid developing sudden homework emergencies every time the bedroom door closed. Another described a child who would materialize like a ghost asking for water, snacks, or philosophical discussions about why the sky is blue at the exact moment romantic mood was achieved. The comments section became a support group for sexually frustrated parents everywhere. May we all get laid in a temporarily empty home/apartment so we can be as loud as we wish, became our battle cry, our shared dream, our collective fantasy of uninterrupted adult time that every parent understands but no one talks about at PTA meetings. But then there was the other side, the critics, the concerned trolls, and the people who clearly either don't have children or have completely blocked out their own parenting experiences. These individuals took my obviously humorous revenge fantasy and treated it like I was planning actual psychological warfare against my daughter. They accused me of bad parenting, suggested I was traumatizing my child, and offered unsolicited advice about everything from spanking to therapy. The most ridiculous responses came from people suggesting I should just yell at her or use physical punishment to stop the interruptions. Just spank her when she cockblocks you, they wrote, apparently missing the point that the entire situation is about timing and subtlety, not behavior that deserves punishment. Others recommended making her witness, the two-backed beast, as some kind of exposure therapy, which honestly made me question their understanding of both child psychology and basic human decency. I found myself having to explain that the revenge plans were jokes, not actual parenting strategies. The fact that I needed to clarify that I wouldn't really call my married daughter to discuss fictional medical emergencies revealed just how seriously some people take internet humor. It's like they'd never encountered the concept of venting frustration through exaggerated storytelling. The most frustrating critics were the ones who clearly had never experienced the specific torture of parental cockblocking. They offered solutions like, just talk to her about boundaries, or explain why you need privacy, completely missing the point that this isn't about malicious behavior that can be corrected through conversation. This is about supernatural timing that defies explanation and reasonable parenting strategies. What really got to me were the people questioning my parenting philosophy, not understanding that sometimes the healthiest response to minor but persistent annoyances is humor rather than anger, laughter rather than punishment, and community support rather than isolation. Asterisk. No one expected that defending my revenge fantasies to internet strangers would force me to articulate something I'd never really put into words before. The difference between being a parent who sweats the small stuff and being a parent who saves their energy for the battles that actually matter. Let me be crystal clear about something that apparently got lost in translation when people read my original post. I am not some pushover parent who lets his kids walk all over him. When it comes to the important stuff, respect, kindness, safety, education, character development, I am direct, honest, and firm as hell. My daughter knows exactly where I stand on the things that truly matter, and she responds to that because I've chosen my battles wisely. But here's the thing that the critics don't seem to understand. There's a massive difference between addressing real behavioral problems and getting bent out of shape over perfectly timed interruptions that are honestly more impressive than they are annoying. This girl isn't being disrespectful or malicious. She's just got supernatural timing that happens to interfere with adult activities. I could yell at her every time she knocks on our door. I could punish her for asking questions about imaginary bugs. I could turn every single interruption into a dramatic confrontation about boundaries and respect. But you know what that would accomplish? It would teach her that her natural curiosity and need for connection are problems to be ashamed of. And it would turn our house into a battlefield over something that's honestly kind of hilarious when you step back and look at it objectively. Instead, I choose to channel my frustration into humor, community bonding, and elaborate revenge fantasies that will never actually happen. I post on Reddit to share a laugh with other parents who understand this specific type of beautiful chaos. I turn my annoyance into entertainment because that's healthier than turning it into anger that gets directed at my kid. The people suggesting that I should traumatize her by exposing her to adult activities or physically punish her for interrupting clearly don't understand that some things in parenting aren't about discipline. They're about development, timing, and the natural chaos that comes with raising human beings who are still figuring out how the world works. My daughter is capable of being alone for hours when she wants to be. She'll disappear into books, shows, or her own imagination without needing any adult intervention. But our family dynamic is also like a big dog pile most days. We hang out together. We're within arm's reach of each other. We exist as a unit that's comfortable with closeness and connection. Her interruptions aren't coming from separation, anxiety, or behavioral problems. They're coming from the reality that privacy is a rare commodity in a house full of people who genuinely enjoy each other's company. The truth is, her timing might be unintentional. It might be coincidence amplified by the fact that we're a close family who spends a lot of time together. Or it might be intentional in the way that kids unconsciously test boundaries and seek attention. Either way, it's not something that requires dramatic intervention or harsh consequences. What it requires is perspective, humor, and the understanding that one day I'm going to miss even the most annoying interruptions because they represent a time when my daughter still wanted to be close to us, still needed us, and still saw us as the most important people in her world. But the tragedy had not stopped yet. In fact, the real revelation came when I realized that my elaborate revenge fantasies weren't really about payback at all, but about finding a way to laugh at the beautiful, chaotic, perfectly imperfect reality of raising children who love you so much they can't bear to let you out of their sight for 5 minutes. Here's the truth that took me years to understand. My daughter's supernatural cock-blocking abilities aren't a bug in her system, they're a feature. She's not trying to ruin my marriage or destroy my sex life through some elaborate psychological warfare campaign. She's just a kid who has grown up in a family where closeness is normal, where being together is comfortable, and where the idea of her parents disappearing behind closed doors feels somehow wrong to her developing brain. The revenge fantasies were fun to imagine, and they provided a healthy outlet for my frustration, but they were never really about getting back at her. They were about finding a way to process the fact that parenting is simultaneously the most rewarding and most sexually frustrating experience known to humanity. Every parent understands this struggle, but nobody talks about it at school pickup or during soccer practice conversations. What I've come to realize is that this phase of constant interruptions is actually precious, even when it's driving me absolutely insane. Right now, my daughter still sees us as the center of her universe. She still wants to be near us, still needs our attention, still thinks that whatever we're doing couldn't possibly be as important as her immediate thoughts and concerns. In a few years, she's going to be a teenager who barely acknowledges our existence. And I'm probably going to miss the days when she cared enough about our activities to interrupt them. The community response to my Reddit post taught me something important about the power of shared experience. When parents can laugh together about the ridiculous, universal challenges of raising kids, it creates a bond that's more therapeutic than any parenting book or expert advice. Sometimes you just need to know that you're not alone in your struggle, that other people understand your specific brand of beautiful chaos. My family really is like a big dog pile most days. We exist in each other's space comfortably, we enjoy being together, and privacy is something that has to be carefully negotiated rather than naturally occurring. That closeness is actually a blessing, even when it feels like a curse during those moments when adult needs collide with family dynamics. The interruptions will eventually stop on their own. She'll develop her own interests, her own social life, her own need for privacy that will naturally create more space for ours. The supernatural timing will fade as she becomes more independent and less focused on our activities. One day, probably sooner than I want to admit, she'll be too busy with her own life to care what we're doing behind closed doors. Until then, I'm choosing to find humor in the chaos, community in shared frustration, and perspective in the knowledge that these interruptions are actually evidence of a loving, connected family. The revenge fantasies will remain fantasies, existing only as a source of entertainment and stress relief. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's surviving parenthood with your sense of humor intact and your family relationship stronger than ever, knowing that even the most annoying interruptions are just another way your children show you how much they love you. Sometimes the greatest parental wisdom isn't knowing how to stop the chaos, it's learning to find humor in the beautiful interruptions that prove your children still see you as their whole world. The best revenge against cockblocking isn't payback. It's recognizing that one day you'll miss even their most perfectly timed invasions. Parenthood's hardest lesson is accepting that privacy is a luxury, but connection is a privilege, and sometimes the most annoying interruptions are just love wearing its most persistent disguise. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button to help others find it. Leave a comment sharing your thoughts or experiences. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear right now. And subscribe to join our community of resilient souls who've learned that sometimes being underestimated is your greatest superpower. Together, we're writing new endings to old stories, and I can't wait to share the next chapter with you.